In the previous lectures, we have discussed the general learning framework and some of the learning techniques. We have discussed some linear family of data models. We have discussed decision trees. They're all about to learn some trend, learn some patterns from the observed data. In this lecture, we will consider a theoretical question that why the idea of learning from experience could work and how whether it work. If it work, how could it work at all? So if you think about the idea of learning carefully with respect to the framework, we can easily distinguish the basic the basic story of learning because the ultimate goal of learning is to learn some relationship between variables, between attributes of the reality. While the reality is not directly accessible, we can only have some limited access on the reality by taking the observation of training samples. Then the entire learning is performed with respect to the training samples. By with respect to, I mean we select some from some preset hypothesis family. We select a candidate according to some criteria evaluated on the hypothesis on the training set. The evaluation shows some hypothesis is better describes the trend in the data better than the others. Then we select the best one according to our evaluation on the training data set as the learned hypothesis. Well, you can you can you can discover for some if you think about that a little bit with a little bit care, you can discover there are some risk there. There is no guarantee the training errors we have evaluated in the training sample, the in-sample error, will be a faithful indicator of the would-be risk if we deploy the selected hypothesis to the reality, the deployment or the generalization of the out of training sample, out of sample error, this kind of risk. These two may not be the same. If we follow this line of thought, we will find that this kind of debate has been for millennia. Of course, this fresco by Raphael is about the school of Athens, where it shows there is a debate between Plato and Aristotle. One believes that the reality can only be discovered by abstract thinking, and the other argue that we can discover the reality from our observation, from empirical experience. Well, we are not going to the philosophical debate. We provide a short answer to this question. Yes, otherwise there will be no point of this lecture and there will be no point of this subject at all. But there is no definite answer. It's a probable answer. We will discuss this question in 3 layers of complexity. We need to peel this onion one layer by another. In the first, in the superficial layer, we will find that probably the evaluation. With high probability, actually, it is likely the evaluation of the out-of-sample error using the in-sample error is reliable. And then we immediately find that the guarantee we have from statistics that it is reliable to evaluate out-of-sample error using in-sample error works only for a candidate. But the task here is to evaluate the reliability, assessing the reliability of the entire learning process. It's not only about one candidate, but it's about the procedure of generating some candidate, this so produced candidate hypothesis, whether this is reliable. We then will discuss this challenge. And lastly, we'll establish in the second step some essential amount. And in the third one, we'll see that this essential quantity changes with the number of training samples, this n. Well, with more training samples, there is more ways that we can incur risk, but for the individual risk, it becomes smaller. So there is a competition between the two risks. One is to increase the total risk, and the other is to decrease individual risk and therefore decrease the total risk. The balance between the two determines asymptotically or to the limit whether in theory the idea of adopting empirical training framework works. So in the next part, I will elaborate a little bit. I will explain a little bit of what do we mean by these three layers of complexity. What are those three topics? And in the rest of this lecture, we will address each topic elaborately. The discussion in this lecture is highly technical, so don't be worried if you find at some point it is a bit difficult to follow. If that is the case, you can fall back and be happy with the general idea that learning does work, and you may follow the general discussion in the next part about the three about the sketch of the three steps towards this conclusion. But more recommended, you can take a note of where it is unclear and look up and check some references about the basic theories of probability and linear algebra. So that might help to understand thoroughly the discussion in this lecture.